Welcome to episode 7 of Tailoring Tech and Talk with me, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer and owner of Roberto Revilla London suit and shirt makers. So why this podcast? I love tailoring because I love taking care of people. I work with so many fascinating individuals and this gives you the chance to join me as I introduce you to some of them. Delve into their lives, the highs and lows of their journeys and the lessons they've learned along the way. My hope is that you'll learn something new, meet some interesting people, and feel inspired to get involved through your feedback each episode, or by even joining me as a guest. This week, I'm joined by actor, comedian, writer and author Tez Iliyas. I explore how Tez worked hard to turn his passion into a career, how he almost blew up his big break, the question of identity as the children of immigrants in modern Britain, and some special insights ahead of the launch of his new autobiography. Enjoy. This week, it's a very special treat as I'm joined by an absolute jewel in the crown of British Asian comedy. Not only is he a writer, stand-up comedian and actor, he's set to add author to his CV with the imminent release of his first book. He's also scorer of the greatest own goal in football history, Tez Iliyas. Tez,
yes.
Yes,
I am.
How are you?
I'm good, Roberto, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really, really good, thank you. I cannot find any footage of this own goal anywhere. Please don't tell me that I have to wait until I've read through your book to find out about it.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to. Unfortunately, it was at a time where we just weren't filming everything automatically. And it happened on the training ground, so it wasn't in the league game. It happened in the week during training, and so I'm shit at football. But when I was at high school, my dad, who is amazing at football, and he played without coining an oxymoron, but he played football. He played amateur football at a very high level. So with a proper Sunday league star, like just trophy cabinet full of trophies and stuff, and so he put a team together for me and my cousins to play Sunday league football. And I just was the shittest player. I was always on the bench. And remember there was one training session where I was defending. So I just got moved around the pitch all the time. So I started as a striker, then played left wing, left back, like everything, like just try and fit me into this team. But most of the time I was on the bench. But anyway, on this one training session, I was in defence and we were attacking. I think we had a corner. So I was slightly outside the box, just defending, make sure in case the ball came back out, I could defend or whatever. Yeah. So their team has cleared it over my head. So I'm running back towards my own goal, trying to get to the ball. Our main star striker, Nasser Azad, is chasing me. And this boy was fast and tall and strong. And I could feel him breathing down my neck. So that I've just come to the ball. And what I attempted to do was volley it out of play. Because it was a training ground, it wasn't like a full 11-a-side pitch. It was like a smaller pitch. So what I tried to do was just volley it out of play. What I ended up doing...
Which was the smart thing to do at the moment.
Yeah, because I thought I'm not good enough to kind of trap it and take him on and whatever. So he's breathing down my neck. He's faster, stronger, better than me.
Get it out of there.
Just get it out of there. Then my team will catch, my team will then regroup and will be able to defend. So I tried to volley it into Rosette. What I ended up doing was smashing it into the top corner from outside the box. Like, I just volleyed it. Like, it was such a clean hit. I was tempted to celebrate because it was like Tony Yeboah. It was so good. And, like, the keeper, did a full stretch, David Seaman just dive into the top corner and couldn't get near it. We all just stopped and I was like, do I celebrate? Do I slide on my knees? What is the appropriate response to this? But everyone we all just fell over laughing because I was like, it was such a good hit.
I really would have loved to have seen that. If there is anyone listening out there, one of Tez's old school mates, whatever, teammates, anyone that has got that on video, I've got to see it. Otherwise, anyone who's an animator out there that might be able to do a virtual presentation of that would be fantastic as well.
My God. It was such one of the best goals I've ever scored.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like one of the best own goals that anyone would ever score. My memories of football at school, because I grew up in Croydon and it was predominantly non-Asian, shall we say. So I never used to get picked for any of the teams. So I remember we went on the City of London Schools tournament where there was an A team, a B team, a C team, and a D team. So I'm thinking, yes, this is my chance. because they just used to assume, because you're Asian, you must be good at cricket.
Yeah, right.
So I never got picked for football, no matter how good I was. I mean, I'd like to think I was pretty good. So I thought, here, I've got a chance. Like, I could make the C team or the D team. So we go on this trip. Then they hand out the team sheets when we get there. All these other fancy schools competing in this tournament. And I'm not on any of the team sheets. So I go up to...
So why did they take you along? Like the cheerleader?
I think... I don't know, actually. I mean, maybe they thought I could keep score or something. Going back to, cricket scorer. So I went to Mr. Kent, who was our PE teacher. And I said, I'm not on any of the team sheets. Why am I here? And he said, oh, God. So he turns around to the other PE teacher and he says, oh, we forgot this one. Oh, what, the glasses kid? Okay, well, just stick him on the subs bench for one of them. And just luck would have it, they stuck me on the subs bench for the A team. Obviously had no intention of bringing me on. The B team, C team, D team were absolutely thrashing whoever they were playing by like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 goals. It was ridiculous. You remember what school football was like when we were 14, 15 years old, yeah? A team, 0-0 at half time. So in the end, I got brought on for my best friend. They put me on as left wing. I'm a right footer. We went 2-0 up. I got both assists.
Nice.
Crowning glory.
Nice.
Do you think that this would have led to more opportunities? No. Not only did I never get to play football for the school ever again, I got demoted to scorer on the cricket team.
Mad.
I know. Speechless.
That's
right?
awful. We Asian. I mean, it's so frustrating. I think it's changed a bit now, but it's so frustrating that people never realised that for British Asians, football was our love. Like, we loved football. We loved football so much. I grew up playing football, and there were so many talent. Like my cousin Was, who's featured heavily in my book. He was so good at he was a baller, man. The sort of kid who the ball would come in, he'd flick it over his own head, the defender's head, turn around and hit it on the volley. That's how he played football. He was so good. But just, no scouts ever came to watch him. And I'm not saying he would have made it, but I feel like he had the potential to make it at some sort of level. But there were no scouts who'd come to watch the leagues because we played in the Asian leagues. So there was no scouts to come and watch him. And I was like, it was so frustrating because I would love to, and there were so many good the Bengali kids were so good at football. I don't know what it's like in London, but the Bengali kids out here were absolute ballers, man. They were so good. And I feel like if they were playing in Spain, where there isn't so much of a emphasis on physicality and how tall you are and how strong you are and stuff, they're like, and Iniesta, Xavi, can you play football? The rest can come later. You can bulk up later. You can gain strength later, but you can't gain skill. Or you can gain skill in terms of you can practice, but there's an innate skill that these Bengali kids had that I thought you can't teach that.
Yeah, we had one Bengali kid in the school. I remember his father owned the local Bengali restaurant.
Of course.
And he had the build and everything. He was that sort of height, really compact, that Iniesta, Messi type sort of build as well.
Yeah.
But he was rubbish, man. He had 2 left feet. He used to get picked last.
Yeah. No, we had the Bengali kids here. There was a kid called Aziz, and at 4 years old, he could do 100 keepy uppies. And that's the sort of thing that you used to say about Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney. And I was like, this kid probably, if he was nurtured properly, probably could have made it to some standard of football. But just, he would come, he started sort of kid who went off the rails slightly in his teens. And now and again, he'd play football. Once in a blue moon, he'd come and just have a kickabout with us and just embarrass everyone. And there were some good players that played with, I wasn't one of them, but there were some good players that played with us. But he was just comfortably had the best touch on, he might not have been the best because his fitness eventually went. But in terms of his touch and stuff, he's easily the best player on the pitch. And I was like, there was no nurturing of this talent. Mad.
Wow. I mean, generally, what was it like growing up in Blackburn in such I guess it was a very dense Pakistani Muslim community there, because when they all came over, the Pakistani community, a lot of them ended up in the Blackburn, Lancashire area because of the cotton mill industry up there.
Yeah.
My dad didn't. I don't know how my uncle Shafiq, not my real uncle, obviously is my dad's best friend, but call him Uncle
Yeah,
Shafi.
yeah.
And my Uncle Shafi, they ended up somehow in London I think they were working at the Pakistani embassy. So they never made it to the north of the country. They must have just got off the plane at Heathrow and just,
That's what it makes me laugh so much about all the Indians that live in Southall. It's like you just got off the plane and went, we're not moving. We're
That's
staying
it.
right here.
We're done.
We'll go a mile that way and we're just stopping. But no, there's a huge there's a huge South Asian population in Blackburn, predominantly Muslim and either Pakistani, Gujarati Muslim, or Bengali. And there's a couple of Hindu and Sikh families, but literally less than a handful.
Just a couple.
Yeah, literally a couple. Not sort of like a couple of like 10. I mean, like literally less than a handful. And then growing up, there were very few black families as well. There's a few more now, but African, whereas there were less. I mean, there were less Africans in this country in the 80s anyway, and there weren't any up here. There were a couple of like obviously people with Jamaican and Caribbean roots, like Junaid Ebanks, who was at primary school with, and Bola Archibong, but there weren't that many black families either. It was mainly either whites or Asians, and all the Asians were predominantly Muslim, Gujarati, Pakistani, Bengali.
Yeah.
Probably in that order. Pakistani, Gujarati maybe, and then slightly less Bengalis.
My mum and dad, they really struggled because they were really concerned with us not going off the rails from their perspective and, becoming too English or British. Like, British was one thing, but becoming English was I mean, that was total disaster.
Yeah. You know what? Do you actually consider yourself English?
It's an interesting question. I was thinking about that last night because I saw that David Lammy tweet.
So the David Lammy
where
thing,
he had that woman call in on LBC. And, British, definitely.
Yeah, same.
English just seems to be like if I say I consider myself English, my mum magically would be ringing me like right now. She'd just appear on the phone if I said that. So I don't know. I think maybe for me as a natural instinct, maybe that's just one step too far. But then when it's the World Cup or the Euros, I'm wearing the 3 lions on my chest and I'm proud as anything.
Yeah. No, similar. Very, very similar. Like I'd never say I'm English. I always say I'm British. But if I was Scottish or Welsh or Irish, I would say I'm Scottish, I'm Irish, I'm Welsh. Yeah. But with English, there's a certain, I guess we the entire empire, when they say the British Empire, what we really mean is the English Empire. Not that Scots and the Welsh are completely, they also have, bloody hands, but the English also oppressed the Scots and the Welsh and the Irish. So they were the predominant force when it came to empire and the excesses of the empire. So when you say English, it feels a bit, I'm British.
Yeah.
Like, I've struggled to say I'm English.
Yeah, it is an interesting question. And that David Lammy tweet and then the subsequent posting of the clip from his show really, really got me thinking about that. And I guess identity is something that certainly I struggled with growing up all the time because there was always this conflict. And when you're growing up under such a strict upbringing, your natural instinct as a kid is always to rebel against what your parents want you to do. And I always wonder if we had been in a place, I don't know, like Blackburn or, one of the...
East London.
Yeah, if we'd just not been in South London... I wonder...
Or Tooting rather than Croydon.
Or Tooting, yeah, which wasn't that far away, actually. We used to go to Tooting a lot because, we always used to... My dad always used the butchers there and always used to go to Umbala, get a sneaky £2 mix box, All the Hubshi Halwa were gone by the time we got home.
But it's also, you can't... If you're not from there, you're not hanging out there because London doesn't really let you do that.
Yeah, this is true. And they can tell that you're not actually from there.
Postcode wars and all that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, where we were SW16, Tooting's only SW17, but you hung out there longer than 10 minutes. It's like, just take your stuff, go, get out. We know you're not from here. Yeah. So, anyway, so getting, I guess, where did you go to university?
Lancaster.
So not that far.
Not that far. And also... one of the best unis in the country. I got very lucky because I flunked my A-levels. And I had to end up, spoilers for the book, but I ended up having to go through clearing. and I managed to fail upwards. Like, it was just worked out really, really well.
Yeah, because from there, you just went off like a firework. You have a degree in biochemistry.
For my sins, yeah.
And you went on to do a master's as well.
Yeah, so a master's in management, because by the time I got to the end of my degree, I realised I didn't want a career. I kind of fell out of love with science, didn't really want to do a career in it. So I ended up doing a master's in management to broaden my career prospects, which they did, which it did.
So how happy were your parents when you graduated with that biochemistry degree?
Oh, delighted. I think they always thought that I'd end up working, in some sort of biochemistry type field, or maybe go on to do medicine and stuff, because they don't really know how the world works. But, I was kind of adamant that that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I ended up doing this, staying on at uni for another year. And probably part of the motivation to do a master's was also just to stay on at uni for another year, because I was having such a great time. So I did. And then I went to do a master's in management, which kind of made me more employable, I think, and gave me the confidence to apply for those broader graduate jobs.
Yeah. One of which was ending up in the civil service. So you were actually in my hometown for a little while at the Home Office before you transferred to Westminster.
Yeah, so I ended up applying for the Fast Stream, which is the graduate program for the civil service. Was successful because it's difficult. It's one of the most demanding and most oversubscribed graduate schemes. So alhamdulillah, I got really lucky to get accepted. And then my first job was in Croydon, working in Block B in the Whitgift Centre. Yeah,
I remember the Whitgift Centre. Lots of gang wars going on there.
Yeah, I was above it. I was slightly above it all, trying not to get involved in any of that stuff. Also, that's all high school stuff anyway, mainly.
Yeah, when I was at college, that's what used to end up happening, is that you would end up at the Whitgift Centre. So all the buses from where I was, John Ruskin, they would end up at the Whitgift Centre, and then from there you got the next bus to wherever you needed to go.
Right.
But you never got the next bus, because you'd always hang around to see which group was going to be coming along from whichever college. And look, okay, right, I'm just bullshitting now. It was all about girls, yeah?
Yeah.
Anyhow, memories. But from there, so your stand-up career was in its embryonic stage, right? So you're working at the Home Office in the civil service by day, and then by night, you're off doing this other thing.
Yeah, it happened. So it didn't happen straight away. So I moved to London in at the end of 2006, so 2007.
Right.
Did London for a year, went back up north. So then I spent 2008 and 9 up north, and then came back at the end of 2009. And then I lived in London for 8 years. So at the beginning of 2010, it was kind of like, I just need a hobby, I need something to do. Yeah. And that's where stand-up ended up happening. There was no ambitions, there was no aspirations, not even really borderline fantasy. I didn't even know how I was looking for a writing workshop, a creative writing workshop, and ended up finding a stand-up workshop. That is how it started.
Wow.
And I was in the right place at the right time, in the right frame of mind, just to say yes to the universe and say, yes, I'll go on this workshop. Because at a different time of the month, I might have said no, depending on what bill I've got, because I was broke. I was living month to month, hand to mouth, having my overdraft to pay off, my credit card debts to pay off, a top card to pay off, and as well as the loan that I took out to do my master, so my career development loan that I took out to do my masters.
Yeah. So
I was in 25 grand worth of debt when I left uni, and so by 2010 it's probably still 20 grand or something. So, it just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and just because I think the workshop cost £130, which was a lot of money for me then. I mean, it still is, but then it was so much money, more than I could spare. But I was just, the universe said, what do you think about this? And I was just, at that particular time, on that particular day, on that particular afternoon, I was like, sure, yes. And I made sure I paid for it in full, because I thought, if I have to pay for installments, I might end up cancelling it. So if I pay for it, then I have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So you start this creative writing workshop.
No, stand-up workshop.
Stand-up workshop, sorry.
I was looking for a creative writing workshop, and then I saw that, and I thought, let's do that one.
Yeah. And was it because it looked more fun, or what was it that spoke to you?
Yeah, I think it did seem more fun. I mean, I'd love stand up on TV up to that point. I don't think I'd ever been to see a gig, but I loved watching stand up on TV. I knew just something that, I was a funny guy. My friends always told me I was funny. So, you end up, if people say enough, you end up believing it. So and I also thought, like, worst case scenario, I'd meet new people and make a fool of myself. I can accept both of those things. So, yeah, I guess it just appealed to me more. And it seemed less like, the performance side of it, I think, felt more like, whereas creative writing felt like you then have to sit there and study and write, which seemed like work. Whereas performing seemed less like work.
I guess also, if you're approaching it from the point of view that it's a hobby, if it works out great, if it doesn't, what? But either way, I'm going to enjoy it. Then when it eventually, as it has done for you, has become work, you're not really working.
Yeah, completely.
There's that famous saying, if you do what you love or are passionate about, you never work another day in your life.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, it can still feel like work sometimes, but on the best days, it is incredible. But yeah, so it's been it'd be 11 years in the summer since my first ever gig.
Yeah.
Which was the showcase from that workshop. And then I just found the fascinating subculture that is the open mic circuit. I just threw myself into it, man. And it was a world away from Blackburn, a world away from my day job. But I was living on my own in a house share. No one to really answer to. No one to say, where are you going? Why are you out every night? Because I didn't have anyone to answer to. I didn't, so I really took advantage of that.
Almost, I don't know if you'll tell me if it was by accident or by design, but you stood out amongst a lot of other comedians around that sort of time because you were so smartly dressed. Because I always remember you as being the suited comedian. It's nothing to do with... I mean, I love comedy. I follow a huge number of stand-ups. And I always remembered you standing out because you were always in a suit, shirt and tie. But I remember, I think from one of your gigs at the Soho Theatre, you actually telling the audience that actually it was because... Well, you tell us why.
Yeah, because the reason, and that was, I did stand out actually, and I remember it being in a very early review, sartorially stylish, and I had to look up what the word sartorially meant, because I didn't know, I thought it was a compliment about my writing or my comedy. It wasn't, it was about what I was wearing. And it came about because I went to do stand-up gigs after my day job. So I wore a suit to work. London's a big place, you don't have time to go home and change and go back out again. If you're finishing work at 6 and you got to be somewhere for 8, you don't have that time to go home and come back out. Once you're home, you don't want to leave. So, and even like most people's social life, a lot of London social life happens after work, straight after work. People don't go home. You just go straight out.
Yeah.
And so I was going, and often it was quite funny though. So I then started playing up to it. So when it became like, oh yeah, you're the stylish one, I then started playing up to it. So there were times where I'd put a tie on after work. So I might not have I put the tie in my bag, top button undone, and then on the way to the gig I put the tie on.
Yeah.
So I'm more smartly dressed for the gig in this room above a pub than I was working at the Home Office during the day. So yeah, that became a thing. So I kind of just played up to it. And I think it became a thing until I left work. And then I was like, do I really want to put a suit on at 7 p.m. before I head out? Maybe not. And I kind of dropped it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it held you in good stead because it definitely did make you stand out and it made you stick in people's minds. Now, obviously, someone at the BBC, you got their attention because I think the first time we really saw you on the small screen was when you actually wrote it, but you performed a 5-minute short for the BBC entitled "The Fast and the Fool," which was one of 5 shorts that they broadcast.
Yep.
In 2015. And I still remember, I rewatched it again, obviously, last week, but it's just so funny. It's about, I guess, the day in the life of a fasting Muslim during Ramzan, on the first day of Ramzan, actually. And it is just 5 minutes of pure observational genius. The montage of you getting up early in the morning and everything that you go through. I mean, I remember, you know, Ramzan in summer was the absolute worst.
It's hard.
Because you have, yeah, that's right.
Especially British summers, because they're so long.
Yeah. I remember my dad getting me up at like 2:15 in the morning, you know, to get up, eat. Sometimes I wouldn't even bother, and that was the worst thing you could do, because then that's it. Nothing's passing your lips until you get to about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, because the sun never sets in this country in the summer. It's crazy. But then as you go through your working day, it's just laugh after laugh as you've got temptation in front of you, obviously culminating with the big one, which is the girl in the office that you fancy. I'm going to put the link to this because I think it's still available. If not on iPlayer, it's definitely on YouTube. I'm going to put the link to this in the show notes, and anyone who's listening who hasn't seen it, you have to. It's absolutely brilliant, and I'm not going to spoil the ending. But sorry, anyway, my original question. Someone at the BBC, obviously you caught their attention. How did that all come about?
Weirdly, and it came from quite a dark place, but at the beginning of 2015 was when Charlie Hebdo happened. It was January 2015 when the Charlie Hebdo massacre happened in Paris.
Yeah.
And the Now Show were looking for a Muslim contributor. Unfortunately for me, Phil Wang was in the writer's room that week and recommended me, because we just gigged together recently. And so he recommended me. He's like, oh, Tez, I've gigged with him recently. He's great. He's very funny. So I think he'd be ideal for this. So they've contacted my manager. My manager's rang me saying, and bear in mind, I'm still working full-time at this moment. I have a full-time job. So I'm getting this call in the office. My manager's sent me an email saying, oh, the Now Show want to talk to you. Bro, I don't know what the Now Show is. In January 2015, I don't know what this show is. So in my head, the Now Show is the radio version of the One Show. So...
not quite.
No, I know. But I didn't know that because I didn't grow up in a Radio 4 household.
Yeah.
We didn't grow up on BBC comedy, radio comedy anyway. So when Polly's like, they want to chat to you, Polly assumed I just knew what it meant. So Polly wasn't like, oh, it's a comedy show. Polly didn't explain what it was because she would, rightly in her mind, assume I knew what the Now Show is, the biggest BBC comedy show, radio comedy. Probably is the biggest BBC comedy show, actually, but definitely the biggest radio comedy show anyway in the country. And I'm like, so I didn't even clarify with her. I was just like, I was like kind of almost like, why do they want me? Like I don't want to do that. Almost like a bit. She goes, just hear them out. So I'm like at the back of work, like I've gone to like a quiet place in the office, and I'm ringing the producer from the BBC, and they're talking me through it, how they want to come on, and they want a sort of Muslim perspective on what's happened this week and stuff, because they don't want to talk about Muslims. They'd rather Muslims talk about it. And I was like, in my head, I was like, oh man, but like, I'm going to say something wrong. And then it dawned on me as the conversation was going on. I was like, hang on. So do you want me to do a set? And they were like, yeah. You want you to do a comedy set? And I'm like, oh yeah. Because I thought in my head, I was like, they want to come on a couch and discuss it and debate it and stuff. And I'm like, I don't fancy doing that. But I was like, oh, you want me to do a comedy set? Oh yeah, I'm massively up for that. And then
because they wanted you for the monologue that takes place in the final third of the show, which for an up and coming comedian like yourself is absolutely huge because it gives you a spotlight for a few minutes.
Huge.
With a captive audience when you're listening on radio. It's so powerful. And you have got no bloody idea.
I have no idea. I know, like I was so close to turning it down until I cottoned on, until the penny dropped. And then I Wikipedia'd it and I was like, oh, okay. And then I did the show and I bloody nailed it, which then put me on the radar of the BBC. And it's kind of that. The short films are also commissioned by, they were a joint commission between iPlayer and BBC Asian Network. And so the BBC Asian Network were already aware of me because I'm Asian. So that was an easy commission for them because then, I was kind of getting my foothold in. And I'd previously got to the final of the BBC New Comedy Award when they brought that back in 2011 after like a 6-year hiatus. So I was in the first final when they brought it back with Angela Barnes, Joe Lycett, people like that. So that was pretty cool. And I was 1 year in. It was my first year of comedy. So it was almost unheard of for someone with like, age-wise, I wasn't the youngest, but experience-wise, I was definitely the youngest. to get to the final was like almost unheard of. Like after a year, like it's happened a handful of times, but out of like we're talking like over 100 people. So so that was pretty cool. So I was kind of on their radar a little bit, and then my Edinburgh Fringe show that summer 2015 is what kind of got me proper attention from the BBC and other places, because people just loved that show, Tez Talks. People loved that show.
I'll never forget Tez Talks, not least because I've listened to all 3 series, because obviously it got turned into the radio series afterwards, for 3 series in total.
Yeah.
Which I've just listened to over and over again, because it's absolutely, again, this talent you have for observational humour, it particularly resonates with British Muslims, because, I think from an outside point of view, they don't really understand what it's like growing up and being a Muslim in Britain in modern times, because we were here in the Dark Ages as well. And you were able to use Tez Talks to educate people. I mean, yeah, it was funny, because I'm obviously the setup for anyone that's not had it. Where the hell have you been for the last 6 years? Go look it up. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes for you as well. But Tez Talks is set up in a way that it's like an introductory seminar in converting to Islam, and the audience are basically the recruits.
Yeah, so the conceit is, the audience have been on a conversion to Islam course, and my show is the final module.
Right.
Before they go out and convert. So my course is like, okay, you've learned, like I kind of almost feel like, you've learned about Islam, you learned the rules now, you all know that, and you're all super keen, and everyone's about to convert. But now I just want to let you know what it's going to be like when you go out and convert, and how to integrate into Britain. So now it's the final module, and then once you leave the door, the imam will be there, and you go and convert, and you can go your merry way. So that was the conceit of the show, and obviously everyone's bought into it, and they know it's a joke. But so throughout the show, rather than saying, and this was the smart bit, rather than saying me, it became we.
Yeah.
And that was a smart thing that I did. So rather than talking to the audience, I almost made it like I was talking about all of us. Yeah. So I was like, obviously, when we struggle and when we receive prejudice, so the audience, I really put the audience in my shoes. So they were like, I remember I was having a conversation with a journalist who's interviewing me for the book just last week. And he was like, I remember, he goes, I had to snap myself out of it, because there was a moment at the end of the show where you said, but we've been through this powerful monologue at the end of the show, and you said, now when you leave this room and you go out as a Muslim, and I almost for a second believed that was what was going to happen. And I had to like almost snap myself out of it, that this is a show that I'm in. And he goes, it was so powerful. And I was like, I was so proud of what I was able to do in that show, because it was that satire, bro. That's Brassai. That's the tradition of British satire I was doing in my own way.
I remember, I think it was February 2016, because the show was then brought to the Soho Theatre, and it sold out. We were lucky enough to have tickets, and we were in the front row. I think you and I had already connected on social media, so we were already following each other.
You heckled me.
No, I didn't.
Do you remember? You did. You heckled me. Or maybe it wasn't at that show. Maybe it was a show before. No, you did. You did heckle me, and I remember being so annoyed. And then we connected on Twitter, and it was all fine. But there was a bit where, the second P comes up on the PowerPoint, and you were like, and the punchline was, "Why would they capitalize the P?" And you kind of gave it away. You were like, "Oh, look, the P's not capitalized." And I was like, "That's the joke I was about to do." Do you remember?
I honestly don't remember. Listen, I when it comes to heckling comedians, I've got that skill down pat. Now, generally, I like to think I'm very, very respectful of performers. I mean, look, I was a drama and theatre arts student. My career didn't go the way that I wanted it to, because there was all this conflict with my parents who didn't want me to go off becoming an actor. They wanted me to get a proper job, right? Which was basically doctor, accountant, lawyer, something like that. Yeah. I've always had a lot of respect for people that are doing live performance. But somehow, and I think it's this sarcastic side to my nature that just comes out, and I can't stop it sometimes. But I remember in New York back in 2002, 2003, we were in a comedy club. I got thrown out because the comedian up on stage, it was his first gig. I was with my American friends, This guy doing the usual, pointing people out in the audience, points at me. Where are you from? London. Oh, London. Yeah, I know London. I've got friends in Liverpool up the road. And I was just like, Liverpool's like 300 miles away, bruv. It's nowhere near London. And that was it. It just killed the atmosphere dead. Like the guy had to, it was one of those, don't know if you've ever done.
Yeah, he didn't have the skills to deal with it because it's his first
and that
gig.
was it. If they died, they got taken off, and the next comedian came on. So it was like one of those kind of relay things. Anyway, the next three comedians all had to go straight away as soon as they picked on me. So I then got asked to leave. Then Dan Clark. Don't know if you. So Dan, famous for How Not to Live Your Life, amongst other things. So we saw Dan at the Bloomsbury Theatre in the front row. And this is how Dan and I originally became friends. Again, we were following each other on... we weren't following each other on social media. So I was a big fan of How Not to Live Your Life. I'm sat in the front row. Dan's looking at the front row and he points at me and says, "Hey, how you doing? Where are you from? What's your vibe?" I didn't say anything. So he goes again, "Hey, you." And I was just like, "What, me?" And he's like, "Yeah, you." And I was like, "I'm really sorry. I didn't realise you were talking to me." He's like, "Well, who else am I talking to?" I said, "I don't know. I thought you were talking to either of the guys sat either side of me because you're a bit cross-eyed, so I wasn't sure which way you were going."
Oh,
that
shit.
I know, with Dan Clark as well. He ripped into me every single joke that he could insert my name into that was horribly offensive. That was it. I was the butt of every single joke for the rest of that night. And so I think I tweeted out and I, atted him to say that I was sorry. And then he and I connected and became friends after that. And then and I even stopped there. Then the following year, we go to see Jackie Mason, and I think it might have been his last tour of the UK ever, because by this time, Jackie Mason's getting on a bit.
Yeah.
And we're sat in the front row again, and he points at me and he's, "Where are you from?" "London." No, because Jackie Mason's whole shtick when he's pointing at the audience is to point out all the, what do they call them? The Gentiles, right? Non-Jewish people.
Yeah.
And obviously I was an obvious target as being non-Jewish because I'm brown. So he points at me, "Where are you from?" So I just looked at him and was like, "I'm from London."
"But where are you from?"
"No, where are you from?" And this is a question people like us get asked all the time, right? So I just fell straight into that. Your normal response mechanism kicks in. "I'm from London." "No, where are you from?" "I'm from right here in London." "Oh no, come on." And then he started attacking me, but it wasn't going anywhere. And then that was it. He absolutely lost it. We're only 3 minutes into his show. Packed house. I think it was a Leicester. It's where you're going to be performing.
The Leicester Square Theatre.
Leicester Square Theatre. So it's a Leicester Square Theatre, absolutely packed house. That was it. So when he's not getting anything out of me, he then starts attacking the woman next to me so bad she got up and walked out because she couldn't take it. So I don't.
Just behave yourself, Roberto. Maybe not sit on the front row.
But anyway, I don't remember heckling you, bro. I'm so sorry.
It wasn't so much of a heckle as sort of like you noticed something and
I opened my big mouth.
You kind of gave the joke of it that I was about to do in 30 seconds. So I was like, that's a big callback. It was a big callback gag as well.
You got that one kid in class, because that's the thing.
I was also that kid. I remember I used to heckle assemblies, bro. The teacher in assembly would ask a rhetorical question and I'd answer it, unironically.
But the Soho Theatre setting for Tez Talks was very intimate. So you'll obviously remember, but the spotlight was on you. But we were very, very close to you because it was almost the audience was in a half round.
Yeah.
Very intimate. There were only, I think, 4 or 5 rows of us, and it really did feel like we were all absorbed in that moment, that hour and a half with you, the same as you were with us, as you alluded to earlier. And it was probably just that that second P came up on the PowerPoint presentation, and I'm thinking to myself, I've grown up a British Muslim. I know all the answers to this. And I probably just, I didn't even realise I was doing it. I just opened my big mouth.
Yeah. It was like, because I was like, it was one of those things that it could happen because the joke is on the screen, but obviously now I'm about to make it. But also, like, for white people, it's such a visceral, horrible, because there was a tweet that I put up, and it was such a visceral, horrible tweet, so that the tweet is so horrible that you think they wouldn't notice the joke that's coming because it's such a horrible thing that I've put up. But obviously, if you're British Asian, you're past that. You're past the horribleness of it because you're like, I know that. And then you see you're like, I can see the joke there. Whereas a white person would be like, that is such an awful thing. And then I undercut it with the joke and they're like, that's actually really funny.
Yeah. I think it is this terminal condition I've got where my mouth and my brain just aren't engaged for 90% of the time, especially in a situation like that. But, you know, I think I came up to you really awkwardly after the show to say, hey, I really enjoyed it or something.
Yeah, you did. And then we connected online.
I was so nervous. Because when you've been following someone from the beginning, they become like a really big star in your eyes. Right.
Yeah.
Now you're Tez. You're my...
I'm your mate.
Yeah, exactly. You're the brother that God didn't give me in the first place. Thanks, God. So yeah, then you pop up on BBC Three in Man Like Mobeen alongside Guz. And that was so cool because I didn't even know you were in that. So this thing starts and I'm like, oh, great. Some sort of Asian sitcom. Guz, obviously I knew, having seen him perform on stage at various things. And but then you pop up in it as well as 8. I mean, what a show, because you guys really just hit it out of the park with that series, because you dealt with so many issues. It was funny. I think one reviewer described it as being like Breaking Bad meets Only Fools and Horses.
That's a really apt description. We used to get Only Fools a lot, actually. A few people said that to us. They're like, it reminds me of Only Fools and Horses. It's like, you know, the biggest compliment you can give us. Like, we were so proud of that show, or we are so proud of that show, I should say. And yeah, just to be part of that is just so surreal. Like, just to be part of a show that people love and reference. And also for a lot of people to be their favourite character, that in itself is also something like, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, everyone talks about 8 when they talk about that show on... so for anyone listening, 8 is the character that Tez plays. After all of that happens, we get to summer of 2019. You get in touch with me and I'm thinking, oh, message from Tez. This is exciting. And there's something you're up to that you couldn't tell me about at that moment, but you needed me to dress you for it. And that ended up being the Tez O'Clock show for Channel 4.
Yes.
That was...
Yeah, I mean, huge.
Yeah, absolutely huge. Headlining your own show, 3 episodes commissioned to be aired in, I think it was in August 2019.
Yeah.
I get confused with recent, because this pandemic really is just...
Oh yeah, because the last 18 months have just been barely 1 year. But yeah, it was the year 1 BC, which is before Corona.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is 2019. Yeah, because I still think of it as last year, but it wasn't now. It was the year before last year. So yeah, summer of 2019.
But was that a concept that you came up with, or was that something that they came to you with?
So we originally had a thing of like, what do you want to do? We had a meeting with Channel 4 and they were like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to do a show that looks like this. And the finished article was similar to what I'd pitched. Obviously, we then refined it and we thought about what it could be and how it could be unique and all that stuff. But it was the show I wanted to make. Not that it was perfect, but it was very much the show I wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, I think the end products, I mean, it definitely reminded me of elements of the MASH report with Nish and the American one, The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Yeah. But it worked. I mean, it worked for me. I think it worked for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it worked for a lot of people. I think it's just the timing was bad because it was, you know, when we're in the conversations about what might happen next or how do you want to bring it back or blah, 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 you know, talking about that. And then the pandemic hit. And so all conversation just stopped, you know, advertising revenues fell. Yeah. So now they've got to really think about how they can and what shows they can bring back. They're on a tight budget anyway, Channel 4. Now they're on an even tighter budget. And now you've got the Tories breathing on everyone's necks and stuff. So it's the landscape's changed even since the summer of 2019. So I'm not sure the Tez O'Clock show will ever come back or if it'll come back in the same way. But regardless, like I was so proud of what we did in that show. Like I was just So proud of it. Because all I wanted to do, because I remember saying to myself, like, you might never get an opportunity to do this again. So all I want is to be proud of this show by the time it finishes and just look back at it and be like, I was really happy that we did that and how we did it. And I am. I'm so proud of it. And it's still available now. Like, if anyone wants to watch it, it's on All 4, which is Channel 4's iPlayer. The Tez O'Clock show. It's available to watch all 3 episodes.
I'm going to link that in the show notes as well, because if anyone hasn't seen it, they definitely should. I mean, I remember the run up to it, getting the broadcast dates. I knew what you were going to look like because I made your outfit.
Mate, that was a killer suit.
What was that process like for you? Because that was your first bespoke suit. Now I get the tailoring bit in.
It was. Like, I've always wanted one, but I could never feel like, from Blackburn working class, I could never feel like I could indulge in one. And if I wanted to do it, I wanted to do it properly. So now that I had a TV studio that was going to pay for it, I was like, yes. And obviously, because we'd connected, you're the only professional suit tailor that I know. And I'm a big believer in, like, local businesses and small businesses and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, yeah, Roberto's going to be my guy. And obviously, I love your work as well. Obviously, I'd seen it on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. I was like, definitely, like, I want one of these. And, your classic, amazing interior designs that you do on the suits, the inside lining, I think it's called. I haven't seen that anywhere else, like, to look that amazing. So I was like, yeah, definitely. And bro, you smashed it, man. I looked so good.
No, you did. I remember when the first show went live and me and my wife, we sat down on the sofa because we were just super excited. I mean, not just to see my work. It was mostly super excited that, you had your own show. And you came out on stage and it was even, my wife just leaned forward in her seat. I just, oh, what are you doing? She's like, man, he looks so hot. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, all right.
I did that.
Yeah, exactly. That's because of me, right? That's why he looks hot. But I mean, really, you just knocked it out of the park, and you came on and you were the star. So yeah, I was just so happy. I really, really do hope they bring it back. I hope that they find some room in the budget to bring that back. I think it was necessary. It was my favourite segments were all the PBC stuff that you did. Pakistani broadcasting
Pakistani
channel, right? It is PBC.
Yeah, corporation.
Yeah.
It was basically BBC, but Pakistani Broadcasting Corporation.
Broadcasting Corporation. All that stuff with Guz was brilliant. Obviously, the worry with Guz whenever he's on the screen, because he just tends to chew the scenery up, was that he would overtake you, but it didn't. It was perfect. And then Sindhu, obviously, always wonderful. I would love to meet her in real life. I listen to her on the radio a lot, and she's absolutely amazing.
She's amazing.
And speaking of Sindhu, you're going to be with her next week, or is it going to be done remotely? Because your book's coming out next week, so 8th of April.
Yeah. So we are sharing a stage together, but socially distanced. So on the 8th of April, which is the day my book comes out, and also my birthday, I should add, we're doing, because obviously ordinarily I do a book tour. Obviously we're not able to do that. So we're going to do a one-off live online event where I'm in conversation with Sindhu V. She's going to interview me. I'm going to do a live reading, and then there'll be a Q&A where people who are tuning in can ask their questions. Yeah. And I'm really excited about it, man. I can't wait. I think we're doing it up the creek in Greenwich, because that's my manager's club, so we don't have to worry about rent and stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. So it should be fun. It'd be lovely to see Sindhu, because I haven't seen her for over a year, and I love her to bits. So it'll just be nice to see someone.
Yeah.
That's not in Blackburn. So I can't wait, man. I'm really looking forward to it, and it'd be good to finally have the book out there, and by that time people might have read some of it, and yeah, I'm really excited. It should be fun. It should be a really fun event, and we have really good chemistry as well. So it should be a fun watch.
Exactly. I mean, the book's entitled "The Secret Diary of a British Muslim Aged 13 3/4."
Yep.
I'll just give an excerpt from the synopsis now for everyone listening. In this suitably dramatic rollercoaster of a teenage memoir, Tez takes us back to where it all began, a working-class, insular British Asian Muslim community in his hometown of post-Thatcher Blackburn. Meet Ummi, which is Mum, Bargy Rosie, the older sister, Shibs, the fashionable cousin, Waz, the cool cousin. I had a cool cousin called Waz as well. Shiri, actually, he wasn't my cousin. He was like my best friend, but called him cousin because I had to call his mum and dad auntie and uncle, and so he was my cousin.
Yeah,
but he wasn't really my cousin. You know what I mean? Shibs, the fashionable cousin. Already said Shiri, the cleverest cousin in a community with the most creative nicknames this side of Top Gun. Honestly, I cannot wait. So, why now?
Honestly, bro, it's as much as because there was a pandemic on and I needed something to do. That's the easy answer. It's like, bro, I was bored, innit? Like I had to do something. But it was just timing, really. Timing. I had the time to write a book, which I wanted to do for a while. The publishers were keen for the book to happen as well, and it was just a good time in life where I could just, because we all stopped, right? Suddenly the entire world stopped. Obviously, I stopped, and then I could just take proper time to reflect on my life and my childhood and the period that this book covers. And it's just a fascinating exercise. I would recommend it for anyone, regardless if we want to be published or not. And yeah, it was just circumstances were really circumstances aligned, and we took advantage of it.
Also, I guess being back in your hometown during the pandemic with all your family around you, because you're uncle to how many nephews and nieces have you got now? Seven?
Seven. Yeah.
Crazy.
Split over two sisters.
And have you let any of them play with your PlayStation 5 yet?
My nephew has played with it briefly.
Very briefly?
Yeah, very briefly.
You're so generous.
It's not a toy, Roberto.
I remember when we both got our hands on ours, we were cradling them like babies.
Oh my days. Actually, it's his birthday on Friday, so I would love to get hold of another one, but it's really difficult.
Yeah, I know. It's the stock situation's ridiculous, which I keep reminding all my friends who haven't got one yet.
Yeah, we both got so lucky.
I wasn't even looking to get one. Like on launch day, I was just like, I'm not pre-ordering it. If I get one in a year's time, it's fine. Who cares? Next gen gaming's not really going to take off till then anyway. And then I just happened to be feeding the dogs that morning, and I went onto my John Lewis app, and I thought, let me just see what all the fuss is about. Clicked on PS5 in there, and it just said add to basket. I was like, what? Really? This was like 9 in the morning.
You just got lucky.
So I added it to the basket, picked it up from Waitrose the next day.
Very lucky. I was hustling.
All my friends were screwing.
I was hustling like a crackhead, trying to get one.
Yeah, I remember.
My tweets, right? Going, where can I get?
Your tweets. Anyone got a PS5?
Where can I get one from? And then just got. And it wasn't even one of them where you could just like, as a borderline celeb, some things you can get hooked up. The PS5 wasn't one of them. There were no hookups for that.
Let's get back to the book. So you're reliving childhood experiences, growing up in Blackburn, and everything that you went through. Again, we'll find out next week. What was the hardest part to relive for you and to write?
My experiences with my stepdad, or ex-stepdad, I should say now, spoilers. Was not a nice man. And so having to relive through those experiences was quite tough. I remember when I was nervous to tell my mum about it because, Asians, we're quite shy people. We don't really like talking about personal lives. We don't like putting our personal lives out there for public consumption. So I was a bit nervous about telling her about the book. And the first thing she said, when I explained the time period, it was going to cover this particular time period, these 5 years. Yeah. The first thing she said was, "Oh, that was quite a hard time for us, though." And I remember just feeling, "Oh God, it was." But then she got over it. She got excited about it and stuff. And the more we talked about it, the more she realized how important it was to say these things and put these things out there. But yeah, I remember just reliving some of that stuff was tough because it's life though, isn't it? Like there's some really good, fun stories in there, but there are also some tough things in there like that. You're like, oh shit, man, this guy really went through some stuff. And there's some stuff in there that I haven't put in, which you can probably, if you were smart enough, you can probably read between the lines. There's enough subtext in there. I think if someone really wants to read between the lines, there's stuff in there that you could probably read into a bit, but that I haven't put in explicitly.
Yeah, I guess part of the reason I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'll be honest, actually, there's a couple of reasons why I'm not looking forward to reading it, because I went through some quite dark times through my own childhood, and I'm guessing that there are going to be some parallels in a way, which are going to get me looking at myself introspectively. And that means by the time you get to the end of an autobiography like that, the best autobiographies are always the ones that get you also thinking about yourself, your own past, relative to the author's experiences, and the ones that make you feel the most as well. And your book hasn't even come out yet, but from the little kind of snippets here and there that I've read, and now I've kind of got enough information that I've kind of got an idea of where you're going to be going within it, because what are you covering? Your teenage years, like literally your teenage years?
Yeah. So going on 14 to 18 and a half. So the week that I leave for university.
Right.
So year 9. So midway through year 9 to the end of year 13.
Yeah. Which often are among the toughest years of growing up.
Yeah. They're very formative years.
Yeah.
It's when you start to become aware of your sense of your place in the world.
Yeah. So Tez, I'm really glad, because that means that there's obviously some potential for some follow-up books, right?
Maybe. I mean, the idea of going through it all again, the hardest part of writing a book is writing a book.
Yeah.
Literally, like sitting down and putting in the hours.
Well,
it's hard.
Getting started is always the hardest bit of any writing
it's really
exercise.
Tough. I remember having an interaction with Richard Osman online, because he started writing his second book last month.
Name drop some more, yeah.
And I was like, Richard, having just written a book, I can't imagine just starting that all over again. And I can't remember what he said, but it just stay in the rhythm, as in just keep drumming.
Yeah,
just don't stop drumming. And I was like, I feel like I've stopped.
I often have Carolina, when she hears this back, she'll be nodding her head at this point, because she hears me saying that. Sometimes she'll interrupt me when I'm in a flow of writing, and I will turn around to her and I'll say, I'm in a rhythm. Don't interrupt me now. So for your follow-ups, I've been doing some really, really hard thinking, and I have come up with some book title ideas.
All right, I'm excited about this.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You might want to write these down, or just listen to the podcast again.
Well, yeah, I'm recording the audio, so hopefully
okay, fine. All right, okay,
listen
you ready?
back to it.
Okay, so for the first follow-up, The Growing Pains of Tez Iliyas.
Nice. Yeah, not bad.
Not bad, huh?
Decent.
Although, considering growing pains happened during your teenage years, you might already be covering that in this book, so, okay.
Yeah, mental growth, though.
Yeah. Okay. So, next one. So, this is for book number 3. The True Confessions of Tez Iliyas.
Nice. Yep, going in 20s, going into London, living that lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. Which then brings me neatly into Tez Iliyas, The Wilderness Years.
What period are we covering there?
I don't know.
My lost years at the Home Office in Croydon.
Basically, yeah, that's it. The Whitgift Centre as well. Don't forget the Whitgift Centre.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
God.
You could open that book, the first chapter, some piece of rubbish floating across the,
I think that one would come before Confessions.
Okay.
So straight after uni. So the Growing Pains covers university.
Yeah. Then
is the Wilderness Years, where I'm left uni and what I did before comedy. That's a 5-year period.
Then book number 5, Tez Iliyas, The Cappuccino Years.
Oh yeah, my bourgeois liberal arts life.
Exactly. And then lastly, Tez Iliyas and the Weapons of Mass Destruction. Actually, that's now I say it out loud. That is a really, really bad
that's
book title for the biography of a British Muslim.
Yeah, maybe just Tez Iliyas fucks off home. Because I moved back to Blackburn, so maybe that can be the last one.
Anyway, look, God rest her soul, Sue Townsend, absolute legend. I just had such a laugh when I saw the title of your book. I was like, that is actually really, really clever. Really clever.
Thank you.
So everybody who's listening, go out there, buy it. Tickets are still available for Tez's conversation with Cindy.
Yes.
Next week, April the 8th.
Yes.
It's also his birthday, 8 p.m. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes. Tickets are only £5 or £20 if you buy a ticket to the show, and you'll get a copy of the book as well. Hopefully, we're coming out of lockdown gradually, and it's probably about the only good job this government is doing at the moment. But again, we won't get too much into politics.
Mm-hmm.
what's coming up in the future? I know your show that was meant to be happening in late 2019 got postponed. It's now hopefully happening because we're going to see you on, I think it's on Carolina's birthday later this year.
So we're touring that. The show that I was meant to do last autumn is now, I've just been bumped forward 12 months and it's happening this autumn, touch wood, if everything goes according to plan. So I'm really excited about that. Obviously, need to write that show. I need to test it and hopefully there'll be some sort of Edinburgh Fringe this summer where I can go and sort that show out and just do it over a number of nights and really beast it and whip it into shape. And hopefully by September when the tour starts, it's where it needs to be, more or less, at least 90%. So by the time we get into November, we film it for whatever, then it's the show that it needs to be. So that's exciting. There's also a pre-order incentive. So if you pre-order the book, there is a competition that my publishers are running where you can win one of 40 pair of tickets to any tour show. So whether the one in London or the one in Glasgow or anywhere in between. If you get in the book, don't forget to enter the prize draw for 2 free tickets.
And again, I'll put all the links there for everybody. Brilliant. Well, look, Tez, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, man.
Thank you so much for your time. Oh, this has been absolutely great. I can't wait for the day when we can actually see each other and hang out in person again.
I've missed hugs.
Yeah. Well, that was the first thing we did, and the first time we met in real life, well, after I heckled you at the show, so years later, you turned up at the work, and that was the first thing we did. We sort of looked at each other, and then it was like, we just went straight in for the hug. I'm a big hugger, as everybody who knows me knows. So, can't wait to see you. Good luck with the launch next week. Happy birthday next week as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Secret Diary of a British Muslim, aged 13 3/4. You can pre-order it now from Waterstones, from all good bookshops and all the independent ones,
and Audible as well. If you're an audiobook fan,
are you actually reading it?
I've read it. It's done. It's in the can.
Brilliant.
So that's also available. Because a lot of people have asked me about that, and they're like, "Who's going to read it?" I'm like, "Obviously, I'm a stand-up comedian. Obviously, I'm reading my own book. It's in my voice. It's about my teenage years. Who else would be reading it?"
Actually, you should release an alternative version in a
read by who would be the alternative voice of my book? It has to be a real juxtaposition.
Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Or like Helen Mirren or something.
Brilliant. Anyway, as I say, good luck for the launch next week, and hopefully we'll do this again later in the year.
That'd be great,
once you've got through a few dates of the tour, or maybe after the Fringe, or maybe at the Fringe.
Yeah, maybe if you're up there, that'd be really easy.
I'll come up there as long as we're allowed to move around Scotland. If Scotland let us in.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a Fringe, it means that we can move around. Otherwise, there is no Fringe. Yeah,
exactly. Cool. Right. On that note, Tez, thanks so much.
Cheers, bud.
See you soon. Well, I hope you found that hour with Tez as entertaining and insightful as I did. Thank you once again to Tez for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me. And thank you, my listeners, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. That's it for another week. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and review. It really helps other people to discover us. And if you really had fun today, why not share us with your family and friends? I love your questions, comments, feedback and ideas, so don't be a stranger and please get in touch. If you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just send me a direct message on social media or email me using the address in the show notes. Once more, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait for you to join me on the next one.